Thank you all for joining us for our May Family Room webinar on navigating difficult conversations with a parent who refuses help. Welcome back to those who were with us last month, and a very warm welcome to all the new families joining us today. We're truly glad that you are with us. We will be hosting a Q&A at the end of today's webinar. So if you do have any questions that might come up along the way, feel free to jot them down. If you're here today, it's likely because someone you love who is aging and you're noticing things that might worry you. One of the hardest parts of caregiving isn't the tasks, it's the conversations. Parents refusing help is not defiance, it's fear, identity, and loss of control. Today, we're going to break down why these conversations feel so hard and how to approach them in a way that protects dignity, preserves the relationship, and still gives your loved ones the support that they need. My name is Priscilla, and I oversee customer support at our Central Maryland location, where I also serve as one of our certified senior advisors.
And my name is Summer Sigalski. I am also a certified senior advisor at our Central Maryland location, where I serve as the general manager.
So when a parent refuses help, it's rarely about the task itself. It's about what accepting help represents. So for many older adults, needing support can feel like losing control, losing identity, or losing the life that they've worked so hard to maintain. They may fear becoming a burden, or they may be grieving a quiet, subtle loss that comes with aging. So their mobility, their confidence, memory, or independence. Some are navigating cognitive changes, and some are simply trying to hold on to the last pieces of autonomy that feel that they have left. And layered on top of all of this are decades of family dynamics, patterns where the parents have always been the decision makers, the protectors, and the one in charge. So understanding this emotional landscape is going to help families stop seeing resistance as stubbornness, but start seeing it as a very human response to fear, vulnerability, and change. When families try to talk to a parent who is refusing help, the biggest challenges usually come from how the conversation is beginning, and it's not so much the intention behind it. Many older children are going to lead with logic, and they're going to point out safety risks, recent falls, or changes that they've been noticing. But when a parent is already feeling vulnerable, these facts can feel like criticism. So others can push too hard, too fast, which unintentionally will trigger defensiveness or shut the conversation down completely. Some families will focus on what their parent can no longer do. They're not realizing that this language can feel shaming or threatening to someone who's fighting to hold on to their independence. And often these conversations... Sorry about that. Often these conversations can feel like criticism. So some families will focus on what their parent can no longer do, not realizing that this language can feel like shaming. These conversations can be common human mistakes, and the good news is that the few shifts in approach, families can create conversations that feel safer, more respectful, and far more productive. This framework is going to help give families a roadmap that honors both safety and dignity. So when we shift from reacting to resistance to using a structured, compassionate framework, these conversations will become productive, less painful for everyone involved. And the goal isn't necessarily to win or convince a parent. It is simply to create safety, dignity, and partnership. So, this framework that you're seeing is really going to start with regulating your own emotions first, because your tone is going to set the temperature of the entire conversation. So, taking a breath, checking your tone, and entering into the conversation when you are grounded. It might even help to practice the conversation you intend to have in the mirror or even with a friend, just as a way to help emotionally regulate yourself prior to the actual conversation. And from there, we can lead with empathy rather than solutions. Acknowledging how hard it is for a parent to feel their independence changing. It's important to begin with statements that will validate their feelings rather than jumping into solutions. So, something as simple as, I know how important your independence is to you. That statement alone can really soften the entire exchange right up front. Next, you're really going to want to share observations very gently. So instead of making accusations, we can frame the need for help around our own concern and desire for peace of mind. It's not their shortcomings. One way to do this is by using gentle, non judgmental language, like I've noticed, such as, I've noticed you're getting up more often in the middle of the night, or it seems like, such as, it seems like you're feeling overwhelmed when it comes to your hygiene routines. This gentle wording helps to avoid triggering shame or defensiveness. And you can then frame the need for help around your own concern, not your decline. So instead of, you can't keep driving, you're going to get hurt, you can try saying something like, I'm feeling really anxious about the traffic lately, and I would be so relieved if we could look into a ride service for you. Another option is, instead of saying you need a caregiver because you can't keep up with your routines alone, you can try saying something like, I've been feeling like I need more support to make sure that you have everything you need. And I think it would be great if we could bring someone in to help us out. Offering choices, and if needed, start really small. This helps to really preserve their sense of control, such as letting them pick the number of care days or even the type of support they feel most comfortable with accepting up front. Allowing aging adults to make choices within our own wishes is a great way to show that we respect their autonomy. And in the long run, this will also foster a greater openness in them to accepting consistent support. Now, if even these steps in the conversation still feel stuck, you can bring in a neutral third party, a doctor, a therapist, even a certified senior advisor, such as Summer and I. This can really help your loved one hear the message you're trying to relay without that emotional weight of the family history being there. So, as a certified senior advisor, I have spoken with thousands of families, and I can attest that care recommendations from family members are very commonly met with resistance. And in those situations, I will always ask families to lean in on me so that I can provide their loved ones with a more professional buffer. And this really offers an objective fact-based advice that is easier for them to accept rather than lobbying, such as from their children or their relatives. So when families face the toughest forms of pushback, it's very beneficial to have some ready to use scripts that can turn a potentially explosive moment into a calm, respectful exchange. These scripts aren't about memorizing lines, they're about giving families a starting point. So, when emotions are really high and words are hard to find, this is something you can kind of look into. So, as an example, when a parent flatly refuses help, a script can help families shift from arguing to acknowledging. So, I hear you, and I know this is hard. Let's talk about what would make the support more comfortable for you. When a parent fears having someone new in their home, a script can help reframe the situation very gently. Start with saying something like, "You won't lose control. You get to choose who comes in and what they're going to help you with." And when a parent becomes defensive or accuses their child of trying to take over, another script that can help de escalate that type of moment: "I'm not trying to make decisions for you. I want us to figure this out together so that you feel safe and respected." Examples like these are going to help show families how to respond with empathy, with clarity, and in a calm nature. Even in the hardest moments, this will help demonstrate that the right words can protect both safety and the relationship. I always remind families that they can call me directly if they want help preparing for these tougher conversations, or even practicing what they want to say before they sit down with their loved one in anticipation of that tougher conversation. So, one of the most important things to take away from this webinar is that there are going to be very separate situations where a loved one's resistance to accepting care has to take a back seat to their safety. So, families really need to understand that stepping in is not betrayal, it is an act of protection. And when we start to see patterns like repeated falls, medication mistakes, wandering, leaving appliances on, one of the biggest concerns that I have for older adults is house fires. So these are clear cognitive changes that can put them at risk. And these are no longer just preference issues, they're complete safety issues. In these situations, love sometimes requires making decisions they may not agree with in the moment because the consequences of waiting can be life-threatening. I remind families that overriding resistance does not mean you're taking away someone's dignity. It only means that you're preventing them from harm and you're preserving their quality of life. And if they also don't have to navigate those decisions alone. Um, if a family ends up being unsure whether a situation has crossed into a safety critical zone, please give me a call and I can help you really assess those risks. We can talk through options and prepare what next steps can look like, and through clarity and confidence. So, when families reach a point where conversations can feel exhausting, feel repetitive, or emotionally charged, home care will become more than a service. It becomes a bridge between what a parent wants and what they now need. So, home care is never about taking over or stripping away someone's independence. It's always about reinforcing their independence. A well matched caregiver can step in quietly, respectfully, and in ways that feel natural rather than intrusive, helping with the tasks that end up draining a parent's energy so that they can really save that strength for things that actually bring them joy in their day to day routines. It also removes the pressure from adult children who are trying to balance their own love, safety, and support in their own lives. Families will often tell me that once support is in place, the relationship begins to soften again because they get to go back to being the daughter or the son and not the full time caregiver. And the truth is, home care can prevent crisis, reduce hospitalizations, and it gives everyone peace of mind. So, when families are unsure of how to introduce help or what level of support makes sense, I'm going to be here to walk them through it, to explain options, and to make this transition feel safe, feel dignified, and personalized towards your loved ones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just keep in mind that what Priscilla had just presented and what I'm about to present, we have talked with countless families. We've been through it. And what we are presenting to you today is fact-based information that can help you get over this hump. Okay, so in terms of what not to do, we're letting you know of those types of things of what not to do because we've seen it and we don't want that to happen to you. It's important to have all parties involved in an agreement, or at least in an agreement to have this conversation with Priscilla. So what not to do? There are a few things that could tend to backfire. Surprises, like suddenly introducing a caregiver without discussion. A caregiver shows up on your loved one's doorstep. It can kind of feel like a loss of control. So dismissing concerns or rushing the process can increase the fear and resistance, which is the opposite of what we're looking for here. In addition, when too many people are involved in the conversation at once, if there are too many dominant decision makers that are all trying to help, it can feel a bit overwhelming for your loved one instead of supportive. So we've all done these things. It's okay, and it's not a bad thing, but what we're trying to do here is to help move forward in a positive direction. So keep in mind, these are things that we're saying not best to do if we're looking to move forward to home care. So from my perspective as a certified senior advisor, and also from personal family experience, I want to start by redefining what independence really means. Independence is not about doing everything alone. It is about having control, dignity, and choice in how your life is lived. When we introduce home care properly, our goal is not to take independence away. That is very key here. We're not trying to take independence away. We're trying to protect your independence, your loved one's independence. We are adding support in a way that allows someone to remain safely at home, your loved one, yourself, safely at home, with more confidence and less risk. Everything we do is gradual and intentional. We are not forcing change, and we are easing into support in a way that reduces fear and builds trust over time. So again, the goal here is to try to reduce fear as much as possible, not increase dependence, but increase trust over time. So that's why we carefully match the caregivers that we are sending to either yourself or your loved one. It's one of the most important parts of successful home care, and we are intentional about this process. We're not just matching tasks or schedules, we're matching the people. We look at personality, communication style, experience level, and even how someone naturally connects with others. Because at the end of the day, care is personal. When the match is right, resistance often begins to soften naturally. Trust is built faster when the caregiver feels familiar, respectable, respectful, and safe to the client. So many families come to us when there is hesitation or full resistance. And in those cases, we do not start big, we start small. That may mean a few hours a week or even a trial period where the focus is simply companionship and light support. We also make sure the client feels in control. They are a part of the schedule, the routine, the process. That sense of control is what allows resistance to soften over time. The family will need to remain involved to a certain extent to ensure safety, but our goal is to work to integrate our caregivers more and take pressure off the family. So if there is family involved, our goal, again, is to try to take the pressure off. If there is no family involved and you are a geriatric care manager or a friend, a neighbor, we will work with your friend, loved one, or client to ensure that we start small and build trust over time to ensure safety and dignity for your client or loved one. So what do the first days and weeks look like? So the first days and weeks are not about transformation. I wish I could wave a magic wand and let everything be perfect from the get-go, but we might run into some roadblocks, and that's normal. I tell all of our families that these first couple of weeks are all about transition. I'm here to work with you as we go through these roadblocks. If we run into any, what they are, we can talk through them, but they are normal. So over the first couple of weeks, you can expect for the caregiver's role to observe, listen, and begin building rapport. We do not expect routines to change overnight, and instead we focus on comfort, familiarity, and consistency. As trust builds, we slowly begin to support more areas of need. And communication is what holds everything together and helps to ensure that we are doing what we can on our end to best assist both yourself and your loved one. We maintain a strong three-way communication loop between the office, the caregiver, and the family, or yourself as the client. The caregivers provide regular updates in the family portal, and a care coordinator is assigned if you need to talk through your thoughts on a more nursing level as an RN, or just need a listening ear. If something is not working, we can address it quickly and collaboratively. This ensures that the family or yourself as the client never feel out of the loop, and caregivers always feel supported. So in real life, many families begin this process with hesitation or even resistance. And again, that is normal. We start small, sometimes just a few hours a week, focused on safety, companionship, or light support. And over time, something shifts. The caregiver becomes familiar. Trust builds. And what once felt uncomfortable often becomes something the client begins to rely on and even look forward to. This is a gradual process, and I want to make sure that I don't mean to, harp on this, but it's truly gradual and it's a transition. It's not an overnight change. And I think that it can be best explained by our guest here today, who is my mom. We have had this family experience with my grandmother, who really did not like the thought of having a caregiver in her home. My grandmother was an amazing woman who raised 5 children, 2 of which with special needs. And it's important to keep in mind the perspective of your loved one and why maybe they are resistant to care. And I know my grandmother considered herself a caregiver herself. She didn't want a caregiver for her own needs, or really to even think that she had gotten to the point where she needed any help at all. So again, everything I've shared is not only something I talk about professionally, but it's something that I've lived with my own family. And at this point, I'd like to bring in my mom, who is going to share our family's experience navigating care for my grandmother, the resistance that we faced, and what ultimately changed once support was in place through Second Family. Her story reflects many of the themes we've discussed today: hesitation, fear, health crises, and ultimately the relief that comes with the right support system. So I will now turn it over to her.
Go ahead. Thank you, Summer and Priscilla, for allowing me to be here to share our story. It's emotional, and I apologize, but my mother was a very independent person. And back when we first noticed her decline, she was very resistant when accepting the fact that not only did we notice, but it was actually happening to her. We sat down with her many times and explained to her that we were just there to be her caregivers, to take care of her, as she took care of all of us for so many years. When she started with her fainting spells, when she started with her decline of cognizance. We didn't understand exactly what was going on, but we knew it was age. But we decided to say, Mom, tell us what you want to do. And she said basically this: I want to live and die in my own house. And we explained to her, that's all fine. We do. We would love for you to be able to do that, but we need you to do that safely and with care. And understand the fact that we now are responsible for you. So the little things that we started noticing getting worse were her falling, her fibbing, and her denial. As a family, we knew we had to do something. When she finally ended up in a rehab center, we told her basically, Mom, this is it. You need to make a decision. You need to make a decision on whether or not you want to live in your own home and be safe or bring in home health care. How blessed we were to have Summer as the general manager of Second Family, an amazing home care group of loving individuals who we knew would be able to take care of our mother in a very caring and a very respectful way. So as we introduced the idea, she basically declined to have anyone come into her house, but knew that it was something that she had to do. Also, the reality of hospitalizations, visits to the ER, visits to patient first, always can draw a flag, a concern flag or a red flag to the physicians. If the person has fallen, if the person has been seen by a doctor in a sequence of falls or of accidental injuries, they can be flagged. And that's something that we told her. We said, Mom, we may not have the control. You may be flagged to a point where the state will take over and they will tell us what we need to do for you. So she knew what she had to do, and she accepted Second Family coming into the house. It was gradual, but she knew that it was something that it had to be done in order for her to do what she needed to do, and that is to live by herself in the house with help. Well, eventually it didn't turn out to be the way she exactly wanted it, because she did eventually have to move in with my sister. And my baby sister and my brother-in-law welcomed her with a Second Family into their house. And she lived there until she passed in 2024 with love, care, and respect. And most importantly, she knew that her family loved and cared for her so much, and that she was able to have that dignity that she always wanted in her passing. So I hope my experience has given you the inspiration not only to reach out to your loved one and explain to them that this is all about love. This is all about concern and care. It has nothing to do with control. So please take a moment and think about really how you want to approach this incredibly important subject with your loved ones, and know that there is help in Second Family.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways. Resistance is rarely about logic. It is about emotion. Connection always needs to come before correction. Small steps tend to work better than big, sudden changes, and support is most effective when it is introduced gradually and with compassion.